Well, I'm happy to bring Bill in. He's been a friend a long time. Bill's not only a good person, he was a good football coach. And he did a good job, and he's certainly a better football coach than people want to give him credit for. A lot of football coaches in Alabama were better than people want to give him credit for. And he's been a friend of a long time. He knows what he's talking about, knows what he did and played. And, I like him a great deal. So that said, that's enough said by me because I won't get into all that. But, Bill, good morning. Appreciate you being on. How you doing?
Great. How you guys doing? And I'll tell you what, after that, after what Wynn just said, I need to just hang up so I don't screw it up.
I'm going to ask you something different. You think I'm going to ask you about all this virus. I'll let Barry ask you about all that. You got Tom Brady, who has now gone to Tampa. And I'm asking you this because you played pro football a long time and played for, what's his name? I can't remember his names anymore. But Tom Brady criticizes Josh McDaniel as the offensive coordinator at New England. He was sick of him, tired of listening to him. Didn't let him enter. Tom Brady is going to be Tom Brady is going to be at Tampa. He's going to be hacked off at the offensive coordinator there because he would like to tell the offensive coordinator what to run, I think. And there are quarterbacks in professional football like that, and I think it's a good question for you. I'm tired of talking about the virus anyway. Any comments on quarterbacks that you had that went against the grain, but just talk about that a little bit.
Well, first of all, when I was working for ESPN, my first year as an analyst, coach at Michigan said, we've got a sophomore we're going to try at quarterback, and y'all come to practice Thursday. You can watch him. We watched him run around and throw, and he wasn't real impressive. His feet weren't great. He didn't have the strongest arm, but he did seem to have pretty good command of the offense. And on Friday, we always sat down and visited with the quarterbacks and both coordinators. That was what the ESPN team did before the broadcast. So this kid walks in, and we sit there for about 45 minutes, and he gets up and walks out. And having looked into his eyes and listened to him talk about what he wanted to do with his career, I turned to Dave Barnett, my play-by-play guy, and I said, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to last, but this guy is going to play a long, long time. I don't care about his arm strength. And it was Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He's just got that something, and he had it when he was a kid, 19 years old or 18 or whatever he was. I played the guys that everybody asked about. I snapped the ball to an awful lot of great quarterbacks just because I was a lot of places. But the ones that everybody asked about are Bart, Starr, and Johnny Unitas.
Yeah, they're two pretty good.
Nobody ever told Bart. Yeah, they played pretty good. Nobody ever told Bart what to call, ever. Mm-hmm. I'm talking never.
Really?
He called every play in every game. Now, he sat down with Lombardi during the week, and they charted out. John Unitas and Don Shula went tooth and nail, even in practice, about who was going to call what.
This is so interesting.
Everybody kind of chuckled.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all knew who was going to call it when we got in the game.
So Don Shula wasn't going to call in the game either, was he?
Got in the game. Yeah, but Shula controlled the football team.
But Unitas called it in the game as well, right?
Oh yeah. He'd come up and down the bench, and especially if I got. My job was to hike the ball and be run over slowly. I understood what my job was. And as long as you can do that, you get to keep playing. Yeah, so my guy would earhole him a couple of times, and he'd come over to me on the bench. He wouldn't fuss or cuss. He'd say, "You need a draw, or do you need a screen?" And I'd say, "No, I'll get him. Don't worry, I'll take care of it."
Well, we made some money snapping the ball. You made a little money snapping, but that Unitas and Brady thing is it's a different topic for us this morning, but I think it's really interesting. We throw Tua in there, who is going to be supposedly good, and the next question along with this, before Barry gets in there, is people were afraid of the injury. Miami went ahead and did it because he's so good. somewhat of a gamble. I say it's the offensive line that makes him good. What do you say?
Well, I think the only person that really knows about Tua's injury is Tua.
Yeah.
I mean, the doctors try, and the guys in the league, I've had players that I thought everybody knew was going to be a number one draft choice. They'd get hurt, and I would always call I didn't call the trainers or the general managers. I called some crusty old coach, and I said, "You think this kid's still going to go in the first round?" Heck yeah, we'd take a shot at this guy because it was that great. And I think that's what happened with Tua. He was so great and so effective that if there is a slight risk with the injury, that it's more than worth the gamble to find out. And yes, you better protect him because they'll be coming after him with everything.
Mm-hmm. Barry?
Well, we're talking with Coach Bill Curry. Coach, if you were still coaching at Alabama, I don't think the current coaches will really give us their feelings publicly. But this name, image, and likeness deal is going to pass. How, and the particulars we don't know. But would you have been for it? I think personally it's going to cause a ton of distractions there. What would have been your feelings if you were coaching here and there was going to be an opportunity for these players to get paid off the field? Would you have been for that or against it?
Well, I've got a bias, and I have to confess it. I was active in the NFL Players Association back in the early 70s when we decided to strike against the NFL, and one of the reasons is because our average salary was about $30,000, and everything that's been said about Colin Kaepernick recently was said about me in 1974. Now, we didn't do anything to disparage the United States flag. But we did strike the NFL, and that was considered to be anti-American and communist, and how dare you strike the golden goose that laid the egg and all that. But one of the issues, too, was player likeness being used on NFL films, so that the NFL films were making hundreds of millions of dollars, and the players were getting nothing in return. That was one of the issues. So these players these days are not stupid. They ride down the road and they see their picture up on a billboard. Somebody's making a lot of money off of their image, and they start talking. A few years ago, the Northwestern team decided to organize and become a labor union. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. It's not whether you like it. It's the fact that you live in the United States of America, and we're supposed to be able to capitalize on our talents and earn money for it. So there has to be a somewhat orderly way to work it out. But I agree with you, Barry. I think there will be controversy on the team about who gets what and why did he get paid and I didn't. Yes, and I think coaches just shudder when they see all that, and I don't blame them.
I don't think you'd have made a lot. I don't think centers would have made a lot, and that's the question that Barry and I are asking. The mothers and daddies are going to get involved in this, and the right tackle's making more than the left tackle, and they don't understand it. And we've got the new transfer rule that goes along with it. You transfer without even going to your coach and saying so, which we think is terrible too. I do too. I think that's, to me, that's bigger.
Yeah, that's a bigger. I hate that. Coaching staff and Coach Saban and his guys do such a great job of developing players. So you work 4 years with a guy. Now, Alabama's not going to lose many people, but other teams are going to work hard and train somebody, and next thing you know, he's going to be playing for Georgia or Alabama. It happened this year with Wake Forest quarterback. Now he's going to be playing at Georgia. I don't blame the kid. I just think it goes against everything that team and college football is supposed to stand for.
Good stuff.
Yeah. If you pick up or you get on Twitter, you pick up the newspaper today. If you look, there'll be a commissioner giving their opinion. There'll be a coach, the Big 12 giving his opinion, and I just think it stirs everybody up. And I think you'd be the perfect guy for this, Coach. I think college football needs one voice. They need the Nick Saban philosophy, and then say, hey, we're working on a ton of different models. We're going to do what's best for these conferences and these schools. And when we have the plan, we will give it out. And stop having everybody speaking out about what they think is going to happen. Somebody's going to eventually get it right, and they're going to be beating their chest saying, I told you this is what they were going to do. And college football is so popular. Would that not be the best way to do it, to put one guy maybe in charge over everything and just have one voice of what's going to happen during this tough time?
I agree with you as long as it's not me. I'm too old.
Well, you would be perfect.
I'm too old.
He ain't going to do it.
I'm too old and too dumb. Thank you. That's a great compliment. I think there are people who could do it. I think we missed some really good opportunities when Tom Osborne was young enough to do it. Eddie Robinson was young enough to do it. I mean, there have been these great figures. You'd have never got Coach Bryant to do it, but he could have done it. He wanted to coach right up to as far as he could. So, but we've had some dominating figures that would be respected by everybody. Nick Saban could do it, but I think Nick probably wants to keep coaching too. And I don't know what entity is going to create that position, but it needs to be a person, when the person is selected, a person that's highly respected by everybody. And here's the other thing. It needs to be a person who always tells the truth, who has a reputation for telling the truth and taking responsibility. That is leadership. And when you have that, coaches respect it. They do. I mean, that's just the way we were built, all of us. Our dads raised us. Most of us, our dads were coaches. Mine was. The one thing you didn't do at our house is tell a lie. I know I tried several times. It didn't work.
Yeah.
You played the middle. You played the middle of the line. You played center. Center gets no credit unless you snap it bad. If you snap it bad, you get some credit. Bad credit.
That's flack, not credit.
Huh?
You get flack.
Well, whatever.
Criticism, not credit.
Criticism. Well, yeah. I didn't use the right word. Let me do the question.
All right.
So anyway, is it different for you today if you had to play there? With these quarterbacks, with the offensive stuff, are you snapping it further back now than you snapped it back just to the quarterback? I don't know anything about football, but I know they got a few. I don't know much, but anyway, tell me about that. Tell us about that.
Well, I think the gun snap has had a big impact, and what happens is if you want to play, you learn how to do the gun snap. So, would I be able to do that? Yes, I would, because I'd go outdoors 365 days a year and I'd snap 50,000 balls if I had to until I could do it.
Yeah,
and not because I was good, but because I had to do it. Bluntly, I'm glad I didn't have to do the gun snap. But could you play center at my size? I played at 235, 240. Today, the answer is no. I would be the water boy. I couldn't play strong safety at my body weight, so I'd have to get to 290, and without steroids and that sort of thing. And I think I could do that, but I don't know. I could run around and brag that I could, but I don't know if I could or not. So, but here's what you were really asking: Wimp, is this different for the centers than it was for us?
Yeah.
We had to make all the blocking calls. We had to see deployment in the secondary and try to look up and make calls after the audible of the quarterback. So we'd come to the line with a play, and then the quarterback would audible, and then we had to quickly change the blocking combination. He had to give us a split second to do it, and that was always tricky. But there were not nearly as many combinations of defenses as there are today. It's a lot more complex, but centers have to be a lot smarter than we were. But I think most of us would have just buckled down and learned it. The ones that, if you wanted to play, you have to learn it. But a lot more complex.
We've got a lot of listeners my age, and I'm not my age. Ain't nobody my age anymore. But we got a lot of people who don't know a lot about Vince Lombardi. They don't know anything about Vince Lombardi. If you sit part of them listening, even my guy that's running the board in Tuscaloosa, he don't know anything about Vince Lombardi. Tell our listeners about, Vince Lombardi is what Coach Bryant was to Alabama, what Bobby Dodd was to Georgia Tech. Nobody knows who Bobby Dodd was. Anyway, all that kind of stuff. Tell our listeners about Vince Lombardi.
Well, it's hard to describe him in a few words, but he had three priorities: your religion, your family, the Green Bay Packers. You will think of nothing else while you're here. If you were 5 minutes early to a meeting, you were 10 minutes late.
Ooh.
And I know that doesn't sound rational, but you better be seated in your place 15 minutes early every single day, every single meeting. He was dead serious, honest about everything. You might not like what you were hearing from him, but you knew it was the truth.
This
he
is
took
so good.
Responsibility for everything. And his best attribute, he doesn't get credit for this because most people don't remember this, but we were right in the middle of the civil rights movement. Then somebody would not tolerate prejudice. If you said one racist word in that locker room, you were on the next Greyhound out, gone, because he had experienced prejudice because of his Italian name.
Right.
He was an Italian-American Catholic. And when I got there, I never seen an Italian-American Catholic. My coach was a Southern gentleman, Coach Robert E. Lee Dodd, and Lombardi wasn't Southern. And I didn't like him, so I went to Bart Starr, and I said, hey, this guy, he says he's a Christian, but he doesn't act like one. Bart said, great Bart Starr lesson, one of my first. Don't judge people, Bill. Don't you dare judge anybody, especially Coach Lombardi. He said, Coach is not perfect, of course, but he's forceful, and he's going to get us. He's going to get us to the Super Bowl, and you just do what he says. And by the way, whether he's devout, he goes to church every single day. He gets up every morning and goes to Mass. He's a daily celebrant. And when you've been working for him about 3 weeks, you're going to realize this man needs to go to church every day. Bart actually said that. So maybe all of us need to go to church. But those are the basics of Vince Lombardi, and you're talking about having a bad snap. If you had a bad snap on a punt, which I did, that meant that he was going to stop the projector in the meeting, turn, and I can still see those glasses clinking in the dark. Curry, the snaps are god-awful. You understand? Yes, I got it. No, I don't think you do understand, Curry. You don't understand. I mean, and it would go on and on. But one thing you knew for sure, there weren't going to be any more bad snaps.
Well, I know Barry's got some. One other thing, Bart Starr, who was by the basketball coach at Alabama, Johnny D, told the NFL about him, and you worked with him, and there won't be a whole lot of people that remember Bart Starr to listen to our show. Tell us about Bart Starr, and Barry can ask whatever he needs to. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll never know why, but Bart and Cherry Starr adopted Carolyn and me as their little brother and sister the day we reported to Green Bay. Really? I was coming in late from the college all-star game. It was 1965, and I'm terrified. I don't know what to expect. And they had 20 rounds in the NFL draft, and I was 20. I was the last draft choice. So you can see the odds on me making a team. They're already calling this team the greatest team in the history of football. And I'm walking to dinner, and I realize somebody's walking beside me. And he hadn't said a word. And I turned and looked, and it was Bart Starr. And I said, oh, Mr. Starr, hello. And I held out my hand. He said, none of this Mr. stuff. He said, just call me Bart. And you're Bill Curry. And I said, yes, sir. He said, look, Bill, I don't know what your faith is, but if you'd like to come and go to church with us tomorrow morning, we got a good preacher at the Methodist Church. And Jerry and I'd like to invite you to come to Sunday dinner with us. That was the way I met Bart Starr.
Gee.
And until the day he died, that never changed.
Oh, yeah, I got a great letter from him I got
one of the greatest friends ever, and a great person.
Yeah, his daddy used to come to our basketball games a lot, but have a cigar, but he never smoked it. He just chewed it, and he was boy, what a family that was, and I don't think he's in the.
Well, I asked Bart one time. His name was Ben Starr.
Yeah.
his daddy was a top sergeant. He was Ben. He had that cigar that he never lit. You're right. Had those thick glasses. And I asked Bart, I wrote a book one time, and Bart was one of the chapters. So I went over and spent several hours with Bart, and I said, why didn't you didn't seem to have any trouble with Vince, the way you'd yell and scream at everybody. I said, you two seem to have it worked out. He said, you kidding me? If you were raised by Ben Starr, Vince Lombardi was nothing by comparison.
Yeah,
nothing
good
to
one. Yeah, that's great stuff.
Last question, Coach.
I got to ask him about his kids when he.
All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Barry.
I don't know if you're watching this deal on Sunday, Last Dance with Michael Jordan. Do you ever coach or play with a guy that was that competitive that would hold the players accountable, would get after those guys, and he was afraid this documentary was going to make people not like him, but I think it's made people like him more by just seeing how competitive he was. But he would get after these guys. Do you ever coach or play with a guy like that?
There aren't any great teams without guys like that.
Right.
And I was so lucky, and it wasn't anything that I earned. I just showed up at the Green Bay Packers because they drafted me. But we had about 3 of those guys. Willie Davis was one. Bart Starr was one. Jimmy Taylor was one. Ray Nitschke was. I mean, those guys, you better do your job or they'd have you over in a corner. Jimmy Taylor would do that. And then I get to Baltimore, and there's John Mackey, the great tight end, and Mike Curtis. Mike Curtis was as dominant as any. Mike Curtis would take you up in the corner, and he'd say, you're either going to do your job or I'm going to meet you after the game, and you know what? So, I mean, there aren't any great teams at the pro level without those kinds of leaders. I know there's only one Michael Jordan, but there are a bunch of there've been a bunch of great teams, and they don't happen without a Willie Davis or a Michael Jordan.
Well, did you ever do anything like he did? I know Dad did. He would find reasons to motivate himself and maybe even make them up. And so I know Dad had some letter that Charles Barkley had written that he read to the team that was not true, but he was trying to find a way to motivate his guys, like Jordan, when George Karl didn't come by the table and even speak to him, he says that motivated him to be ready for the next game. Did you ever make up any stories there, Coach, to have your team ready to play or get them more ready to play, if that's a thing?
I wasn't as creative as Wimp. The only thing I did do, I did go, they had This is not a very good answer to your question because I couldn't compete with Wimp on being creative. But that we had a Wimp Sanderson lookalike contest at the basketball halftime, and I showed up and I won the contest mainly because I had a checkered jacket on. Wimp comes over, he said, "You got my damn jacket on." I said, "I sure do." He said, "How'd you get it?" I said, "I came to your house and your wife escorted me in. I got it out of your closet." I wanted to motivate my players to be creative and to don't go steal somebody's jacket. I did give it back. But yeah, we're always trying to think of some kind of gimmick to get our guys' attention.
Yeah.
You can't just play it straight. Coach Bryant was a master of that. Obviously, I wasn't near as good as Wimp or Coach Bryant, and Coach Lombardi would always think of something. We were over in Detroit one day, and Detroit was the only team that was not intimidated by the Packers. They had Alex Karras and Mike Tringley and all those guys. They were trash talking before there was trash talk. And they were beating us to death. It was 21-3 at the half. One of them walks by Lombardi at halftime, gives him a little profanity, says, "How you like that, you fat, you know what?" And I turn around thinking that God would strike this guy dead on the spot. But instead, Lombardi smiled. He smiled. He didn't say a word. And we're behind 21-3. We go in at the half, and we're all terrified of what Lombardi's going to do. And he didn't show up. He didn't come in the locker room at all.
Huh.
So about 30 seconds left in the half, everybody's sitting there nervous. What are we going to do? I mean, he hadn't been in and tell us what to do. He steps in and said, "Men with the Green Bay Packers." He turned around and walked out. That was his halftime speech.
Gee,
It was the greatest
what a great speech.
I've ever heard. Yeah.
Well,
because he already taught us who we were.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what,
what do you think happened?
Go ahead.
What do you think happened in the second half of that game?
Y'all won.
And then I found out why Lombardi was smiling.
Yeah.
Lombardi knew that the other team thought the game was over.
He knew what to say and how to say it, didn't he?
And we blew them.
Yeah.
We ran them out of their stadium. So anyhow, the great ones figure something out.
Yeah.
Barry and I sure appreciate you being on. This if people listen to this, they'll get a lot out of this interview. It's terrific, and I know Bill and Kristen. I know you got what? Is it 7 grandkids?
7 grandchildren. Yeah, the toughest thing about this quarantine is we don't get to go hang out with them, but we can Zoom with them. So
tell Carolyn I said hello, and Annette said tell her hello, and you're a great guy, and I hopefully I'll get to see one of these days. I know he's in Atlanta. I got a granddaughter. Barry's daughter's going to be married, and they're going to live in Atlanta, so I can go over and see them and see you too. So anyway, I appreciate you being on.
We do get to see y'all. Okay. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Great interview.